I've got a CB350. Unfortunately, I've got an oil leak. And I'm pretty sure I've diagnosed where it's coming from. It's coming from down here, this screw here. So if you can kind of see how I've got my gasket sticking out off this side? And if you come around to this side, it's not as bad. You don't really see it. Kind of do, but not really. But anyways, what I'm saying is it's not centered. And so I believe that I've pinched, this is my classic thing. I have a great ability to pinch that. I always have a trouble. I'm sure, and other people do too. It's this side that's always so tricky to get it just right without an oil leak. So I'm going to show you how to take off the left side points housing and cam holder there, and reposition the gasket, hopefully get that housing back on, and hopefully put it all together without an oil leak. So I've got an old gasket on there, and it could be that, but I think it's more to do with my positioning, and I may just have pinched something. So I'm gonna Okay guys, so the procedure goes. On here, you know the nub, the timing nub. What you got to do is turn it till you're about in the 4 o'clock position. Somewhere right in between here. And that's a low slack position for your timing chain. And once we get it to about here, then we're going to slowly take off our cam temperature. Once we get that off, then we're going to take off the points housing. All right, so let's start. 14 millimeter. All right, I'm gonna just make sure on the left side though. There you go. Ow, that hurt. All right, that's good. Right, yeah, right about the 4 o'clock position is where you want to be. Then nice old Canadian winter storm hitting through right now, good 10 to 15 centimeters. Oh. Oh. And as I take this off, the main purpose is to see if I can find out where this oil leak is coming from. And there's definitely oil coming through there, without a doubt. It's leaking right through. So now see if as I take these bolts off, if this one is the similar, where I've got oil coming through. Okay, so on that side, no oil. I think I did find my problem. And as it was as I suspected, out this lower left position. So now just need to figure out why. And it might be because I'm using an old gasket. I've got some new ones on the way. So that should fix things up. Alright, getting there. Now, there's my 12 wrench right there. And like I said, if you you have to take off the tappets. Make sure you take off your tappet covers, when you're doing this. And because if you happen to pull the tappets out, it's not the end of the world. You can just reach in and position your valve pushers in place so your tappets all fit in there just right. So, oh yeah, without a doubt. So, as I take this off, I see that without a doubt oil was coming through there. That was my problem. So now I just gotta figure out why. And as I slowly take off the housing, then we're gonna see why. Put that in there. So I've got my 4 bolts off, I've got tappet screws off, and then it's just the trick of gently pulling this out without hurting anything. So let's do that. Oh, look at that. Just a little prying, I got some movement. And just like that, it's out. Okay. So anyways, yeah, we're back. I've made my own gaskets. for a couple of reasons. I actually felt that I could make them a bit better. Okay. So tappet's in. When you do this too, make sure that there's a line on the tappets. Make sure they're facing out. Here's a little tip too. When you're putting these gaskets on, there is only one way to put them on. If you're not paying attention, you can put it on backwards. But it's very important that you put them on correctly. There's a couple reasons. If we analyze this gasket a bit, if you take a close look, they're not perfectly matched in height. They're slightly off a bit. And so that's very crucial that you don't mix it up. Also, if you notice, if you take a look on this one, so it's, again, we're looking at the backwards, but if you look over here, there's one ridge. So one turn and then straight down. Here there are two turns. One, two. So I'm literally at the point now where I install my points housing. Now, one thing I found is that I actually had ordered a spare housing, and I'm glad I did, because the one that I was using, there was a couple of things I found wrong with it in the end. First of all, someone had, what do you call it, powder coated it, which is not good for oil sealing cases. You know, if you're going to powder coat, you can only do the exterior pieces of metal. You can't do the parts that actually seal metal. So that was my first problem. Second problem was, I actually do believe that I had a little bit of an oil leak, or a big oil leak, coming through the camshaft seal itself. Believe it or not, that comes out. That's a main seal. Now, comparing my old rubber, it was noticeably not as nice. The rubber was worn and been through a lot. So I'm glad that I made the new change to the new housing, and it looks a lot better too. You know, so, and then of course I made my own gasket, which looks really good actually. So I'm actually thinking I'm going to have good success. Now, in my particular case, I do have a slightly damaged cam housing here from unfortunately, one of my previous, when I was, I've learned a lot through this bike, but I did try to use Gasket Maker one time in a previous attempt to stop an oil leak, and I actually got oil in it, literally welded the cam shaft to the cam shaft housing, and this all broke off, and it was quite a mess. But for some crazy reason, I decided to use this same housing again. So if I do all this and I still have an oil leak, I know that I've got a defective cam housing here, and I'll have to take the engine out again and replace this whole piece. But as a last ditch effort, I'm doing all these steps and seeing if this works. All right. So now another little tip that I've kind of come up with myself is, I think a lot of guys, and I think, this is my own idea from staring at this thing and thinking about it. But put your rubber gaskets in first. So my rubber gaskets for the tappet's already inside there, so they can't get pinched or go in the wrong way. Because that's one of the main problems with putting these gaskets in, is making sure that you get that in just right. And if you don't, that's most of the time where the oil leak comes from. So I've tried to do everything in my power to make sure that I do not have an oil leak this time. All right. So here goes the fun. Now I've positioned my gasket just perfectly. Got my rubbers in place, tappets are installed. So here we go. So I'm gonna get down here a bit. You can never have enough room. Good Lord. Okay. Still looking good. Okay. And the video quality of this compared to an iPhone is remarkable.